Welcome to Breaking Barriers. You know your path. We know the obstacles, and we can teach you how to tear them down. And now your host, CEO and founder of Adapting Social, John Vigero.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Breaking Barriers. We have a repeat offender here with us today. I'm super excited. This guy is literally a genius in so many ways. He's a great guy. He's a father. He's a husband. We got Dr. Scott Greenberg with us here of Greenberg Regen. I'm so grateful for you to be here with us today, Dr. Scott. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, John.
Yeah, of course. And for those of you who don't know, Dr. Scott is making some massive moves in areas you wouldn't even realize. We're going to throw it up on the screen here. But for people, again, we have a lot of new people listening into this. For the people who are like, who is Dr. Scott Greenberg? Tell them a little about yourself. Tell them what you do and what you specialize in.
Well, first of all, who am I? I'm a man with a mission who's very determined. My determination comes from a lot of things. And some of it has to do with just who I am. But unfortunately, John, I know what it's like not to be good and not to be well. And I've gone through a long journey with myself over the years and have been able to heal myself and fix myself. And most things I do to patients are things that I've done to myself. So, this is what I believe in. This is what I practice. This is what I do. And it might be unconventional, but I really don't care because in my mind, it's proven, and I've proven it to myself over and over and over again.
Right.
So, when I was younger, I was hit by a drunk driver at about 75 miles an hour. I came within inches of losing my life, but fortunately, I've been able to bring life to so many people because the things I had to innovate on my own body to heal myself, I use to fix my patients. And, to me, that's just a blessing. So I think it kind of comes down to the overall theme of, when you got lemons, make lemonade. Because otherwise, my life could have been all lemons and all sour. And, my dreams were, ruined for a period of time, but they weren't, because I turned that bad incident into something extremely positive. And it's really been life-changing, not only for myself, but in my past 23 years of practice and being able to help people that really have no answers and no solutions to their problems.
Yeah, I love, so you've gone deeper with me on a story before that, you obviously got into this accident and you were having just terrible migraines and terrible headaches through college and stuff. And, it was literally messing with your daily life.
Correct.
And what's so cool, not that that's cool in any sense of the word, but what's so cool though is that you took that painful situation and you made it your life's mission to make sure that people don't go through that and find a way, because you told me you went to doctors on doctors and nothing was changing.
That's correct.
And so you found the way, and now you're helping people. And it's really incredible that, I love hearing businesses and stories and journeys of people who literally create their life, their life's work, their life's mission, what they do for the rest of their lives based off of an experience that happened to them. And it's quite remarkable that, you've been able to help as many people as you have, and I know that firsthand based on just obviously us working together, but, it's truly remarkable. What would you say to people out there? Because here's the thing, right? Starting a business and being in business like you are, right? It's hard because, in one way there's the entrepreneur and then there's the artist, right? So somebody who loves what they're doing, they're passionate, it's their mission, it's their life. And then there's the business owner who's like, the entrepreneur who's like, I want to make money, I want to move, I want whatever. Like, what advice would you give to somebody who's been through a situation, not necessarily similarly, right, but been through an experience and it changed them and made them want to start something? What advice would you give them to be able to create the success you have, not only in helping people and fulfilling your life's mission, but also being able to make your practice successful from the entrepreneur side too?
Well, I think they kind of go hand in hand, because I think if you treat people well and you treat them honestly and earnestly, and you tell them exactly what your thoughts are, and also tell them what you're going to do for them, I think they can really understand and buy into your vision.
Right.
So if someone understands your vision and understands that you are able to do things that maybe they didn't think were possible, And you're only saying so because you have done those things before and you can stick by your word and you have gotten those results before and you continue to get those results for people. Well, I think that kind of starts with, let's call it the product, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
product is. For me, that product is making someone better. For you, that product is helping people know about their services. So whatever they are, we have to be able to be passionate about our product and what we provide. And then with that, I think comes the entrepreneurship. How am I going to get my word out to people? How am I going to, expand what I do outside of my own circles?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so I
It's
think
not
that
easy. It's
I
not
think that
easy
all
to.
comes together.
Well, so when you're a genius like you are, right? And I do genuinely believe that. I think you're a very intelligent person. But when you make it seem so easy to do what you just said, and it's not easy for most people. Like, did you find yourself confident enough in yourself to be able to be that person right away? And if not, like, how did you build that in yourself? Like what did it take? What did you have to dig into to really, take that out to get to this point?
Well, listen, when I was younger, my grandmother always told me how much she loved me and how great I was. So I guess I believed her the whole time. But, I don't know. I just have always had the drive within myself. And, my father, did not graduate, from a college or anything like that. He barely,
Mhm.
got out of high school. But he made himself into something by hard work. And I guess that's kind of what I've learned in the time that I've been a child, that you have to work hard in order to succeed and things aren't going to be handed to you. And, I've kind of never really doubted myself. But actually, the funny thing is, a few years ago, I asked my mom, and because I was down in Florida visiting her, I said, "What did you and Daddy think when I told you that I was going to do, this type of medicine?" And they said to me that they were really worried and they thought that I was going to fail and that I wouldn't be able to feed my family. And quite the contrary has happened. And, for me, though, it's kind of the only way that I can do things because I can't do things that I don't believe in my heart aren't the right things. And if I
Right.
think that what I'm doing is the best of what I can provide and better than what's out there, then hell, I'm going to go for it and I'm going to do what's in my heart because it's not going to steer me wrong.
Right.
Uh, and I'm constantly reevaluating and thinking and trying to innovate and all those different things. So, I really just didn't doubt myself. And like anything else, you know, a line, to the top is not a straight road. And, there's a lot of different bumps and adversarial positions that happen and whatever, but you need to be determined in order to, move forward. And
Mhm.
the funny thing is, even my, colleagues when I was younger, they would think that what I was doing was absolutely crazy. But nowadays, you talk about PRP and stem cells and things like that, like they're household words. But when I started doing all this stuff, everyone thought I was off the wall. Like, how could you take someone's own, someone's own plasma and heal them with it? Like that sounds stupid.
Right.
But it's not stupid. It's actually super elegant. And you need to have determination to put all the naysayers by their side. And in the end, the chips fall where they will.
Right.
So that's the way
It's
I
re
look at it.
it's
That's the way
it's
I look
so
at it.
it's so cool though. I love that story. And I remember the first time we connected, you shared that. And for everybody that's listening in right now, I think it's so important. A lot of times, I feel like in anybody's journey, whether it's entrepreneurship based, obviously, what I love about doctors and MDs is that you know people look at them like just from the medical perspective. Obviously, you go to school, you put all this crazy time into school, but then you have to also be an entrepreneur, right? So it's like wild the twist between being a doctor, taking all the education, and then also having to run a practice, get employees, build your team,
Yes.
hire the right people. But
And
anyway,
that's
so
what
with
you
that,
said, the team. You need a team approach.
yeah, right,
You need a team approach because it really takes all kind of people to make the show run. Whether it's my nurses that help me or my practice manager, the people who answer the phones, or my wife, who runs everything in the background, and keeps the practice going. It takes a team to do what we need to do, not just one person. And I think that if you surround yourself by good, talented people, that helps you achieve your mission as well.
Right. Now,
So,
speaking of that, so that was one of the questions that we got in for you that I was excited to ask you. You brought it up though, so I got to jump in. So I work with my wife as well, right? Jacqueline and I, Jacqueline's the CFO of Adapting Social, and anything else that we're working on. And her and Robin pretty much have very similar roles, obviously, in my organization, your organization.
right.
I get asked this all the time, but I got asked for you today. How do you balance, right, the husband wife dynamic duo, right, in the workplace, and then be able to separate that from when you're in your personal and romantic life? Because a lot of times what we've seen statistically, right, obviously the divorce rate in America by itself is atrocious, but
Right.
putting together, when you put business in the middle of it, it's typically even higher. I think it's like 65 to 70%. um,
Oops. I guess we made a bad move, both of us.
but listen, I think when you do it right, so that's why I wanted to ask you, what do you guys have some sort of like values or philosophy when it comes to like this, like where it's like how you guys flow well together?
Well, listen, I don't think that that's such an easy question, and it certainly isn't unidimensional. And there are obviously
Right.
times that, I mean, I'm a brazen individual. My wife's a very brazen individual, and there are times that we just butt heads. It's just the way
Right.
that it is, and we
Right.
may not agree with things, and you have to figure out how to come to a resolution of that.
Right.
But that happens. On the other hand, you have to look at the benefits, and who more in the world could I trust than her?
Hmm. Right.
In addition to that, I believe that she's very talented in what she does, and she's very good at what she does, and is able to accomplish things that I think for me would be extremely frustrating. I would
Hmm.
not want to deal with the things that she deals with on a regular basis, like whether it's dealing with a computer issue, or how the EMR is working right or not right, or
Right.
how to go back to the to the to send off the 401k money or whatever it is that needs to
Background.
get done.
Background.
These are things that she takes care of, that she's on top of, and I don't
Right.
really need to even think about them, which really makes my life easier. And in addition to that, John, it really gives her a purpose and involvement in what's happening in my life and in my business, which is her
Brand.
business also. So I think that that's really a nice thing from
Yeah.
that
Quick chat.
standpoint, to have that type of involvement.
Hmm.
And
Right.
listen, to be very coy, every
Now go wide.
every every wife thinks that their husband's an idiot for the most part, right? In some aspect.
Right.
So, I'm sure when I'm home, I do stupid things or whatever it is. But the nice thing is also, if my wife Robin comes to the office and she can actually see my patients as they're coming out, and they're always so happy to meet her, and they tell her stories of how we
Hmm.
changed their lives. And I think with that, it really lets her understand my mission and what I'm doing and what I'm working so hard for on an everyday basis to achieve,
Hmm.
rather than just leaving the house, going out the door, entering some office, and coming home 8 to 10, 11 hours later.
Right.
But I think when she can see the product of what happens and how really important it is, and really helps her understand what my passion in life is, to help people.
Yeah, that's really powerful, and I obviously I can relate with my situation, and I think I think a lot of times, because most of the questions that we got for this, we got like 5 to 10 questions about this specifically, like how to work with family, especially your husband and wife team is very tough, and I get asked that a lot with Jacqueline and and my dynamic, and
Hmm.
one of the things that I always say, me personally, you know is exactly what you said, which was, who could you trust more than your wife, right? Right.
Right.
With what you're doing. But also, we kind of pride ourselves now that we have our first child, and our son is, going to be 3 months old, but like we're working towards making sure that he understands how hard his parents work, and they work together, and having a partner in life, and a spouse in life that you're able to do some big things like that in the business world, and then also obviously still have that like fun and romantic side. And that's one of the things with us is we've really gotten good at that, and not everybody can, right? Because there's a lot of ego attached to it. And I think with us, that's what we
Sure.
removed is, as we said, listen, we're both in this together, right? So if we're having a bad day, just like you said, sometimes we have those days, right? And that's okay. It's okay to have
Right.
a bad day. I mean,
Mhm.
when you're pissed off, everybody's going to get pissed off at something, right? So,
Right. And
it's
also, you
just
have to learn how to resolve those problems like anything
right,
else. Just be able to
right,
talk through it. You have to be able to hear both sides and understand why someone's thinking something and
right,
be able to come to some type of conclusion and be able to move forward with that.
right. So I had the privilege of meeting your daughter in the last podcast that we had, and and one of the things that I think about now, right, and having my first child, and now becoming a parent and stuff, and obviously, you have a beautiful child and stuff. So for me, what what do you see, right? Like if somebody were to ask your daughter, right, like who is your dad, right? What is he like?
Right.
What would you think she would say in terms of your character and who you are?
Um, well, I know, I mean, listen, it's so funny you asked me this because I was looking at a card today written by my oldest daughter for my birthday last year.
Right.
And she wrote, Dad, I hope you always remain a kid at heart because I am.
Oh.
I always am a kid at heart. I love to play and have fun. And she certainly appreciates all of my hard work and dedication and everything else. And she knows that I want to give everything I can to my family.
Right.
And so I think that these are really important values that are passed on. And she's a very hard worker, probably because she sees what the two of us do.
Right.
So but yes, I mean, I think that she understands that I'm kind of the proverbial, work hard, play hard person. And I love to have fun in all different sports and activities and things like that. And even if she and I are in the car together and our favorite song from the Foo Fighters, Everlong, comes on, we're both turn up the volume and scream it as loud as possible because neither one of us can sing well. And it's about trying to enjoy life when you can and enjoy all those moments because they're wonderful. And that's, the memories that you make with your family.
Yeah, that's
So,
amazing, man, and I love that. And honestly, I'm really looking forward to that. For my son, obviously, and my future children, because that's the thing with me. I always get that from my wife. She's like, "You're literally such a big kid," and I think it's such an amazing compliment. It's not a negative compliment because it's such an amazing thing to still be, as you're getting older, still being youthful because age is just a number, right? At the end of the day, how you act and what you do is what really defines who you are.
yes, to some extent, but getting back sort of like to the medical technology of things,
Yeah.
um, age does creep up on you and does make you feel older when you get older. And
Right, right.
I'm very fortunate that I actually have other technologies that basically let us reverse our biological age, which
Wow.
is amazing stuff. And
I'll be in your office soon enough.
yeah, but hey, listen, I'll tell you, even though I'm a kid and like to go hard and I love to surf and ski and snowboard and mountain bike and work out and do boot camp and everything else I love to do,
Right.
once I hit 50, John, like I started to change and I started to feel like I couldn't recover. I felt
Mm,
achy all the time. I was not sleeping well at all and really didn't feel myself. And
right.
this is sort of like the true effect of aging.
Mm,
And I'm very fortunate that uh, that there's a procedure that I had that we use on patients that actually truly reverses biological age. And if I'm going to do something to a patient, I'm doing it to myself first.
right.
And now I feel youthful again. And, to me, like that's the greatest gift I can give myself is staying young and healthy and able.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. And now is that so for people listening in, that's like, wow, I need to know what that is.
Uh-huh.
What does the procedure look like for something like that?
So everyone's heard of stem cells by this point, and there's a specialized type of stem cell called a V cell. VSEL, which stands for very small embryonic-like cell. And
Hmm.
they're found in the body, but they're kind of in clusters, like a cluster of grapes.
Right.
So the nice thing is that V cells are super potent, and if you can give the V cells back to yourself, they can go through your body and start to heal and rejuvenate and regenerate tissue.
Mm.
So in this procedure, what we do is we simply, put a catheter in, take out some blood of the patient, we process it in a certain way, and then
Hmm.
apply a special type of laser to the plasma. And what the
Mm.
laser does is, as I said, it takes these B cells that are in clumps and breaks them up into individual cells. And then we give them back to the same IV and then actually use the same laser over different parts of the body to drive the cells into that area. And while this
Mm.
seems like space age kind of stuff, it's actually been studied and it's patented in regards to the process.
Wow.
So if we put the laser over parts of the brain, it'll actually help to drive the cells to the brain. If you put it over the heart, it'll drive cells to the heart. If you put
Wow.
it over the testicles, it'll drive cells to the testicles or to the ovaries.
Right.
And, um, it helps to basically rebuild what happens with age. So it turns back the biological clock. And the studies show that this, basically will amount to like 3 years of biological age reversal per treatment.
Wow.
So, yeah, which is actually more than any other single treatment can do. So, like as mentioned, for me, like I wasn't sleeping well. Now I sleep pretty good. In addition to that, I benchmarked several things in my body and I saw my testosterone levels go up 20% from the highest levels that they had been because they fluctuate. And they
Right.
went up 20% from the highest they've been in years. And
Wow.
my growth hormone went up about 25% from where it's been.
Wow.
And the neatest thing that I did was, as I mentioned, I love to work out. And
Yeah.
I had my trainer, he gave me 100-meter sprints on a machine called a ski erg and would see how fast that I could do it.
Yep.
And we checked a week before and 2 weeks before my treatment. And my times were anywhere from 22.9. The fastest I could get was 21.9, going as hard as I could.
Right.
2 weeks after the treatment, I hit 18.7.
Wow.
I
Let's
knocked
go.
I knocked my time off like crazy. And now, even 3 months later, I'm still hitting those times. So it's
Wow.
nothing that sort of just was like a
Quick.
short-term kind of kick. It's
Yeah.
maintained. And my weights in the gym that I do are just more. I can do
Right.
more and more stuff. I did deadlifts with a 150-pound kettlebell 10 times for 5 sets. Next day, felt pretty good. Didn't feel like someone beat the
Mm.
living daylights out of me. So, in addition to everything else I did with my workout, so for me, and my personal philosophy of how I want to live my life and what I want to be, I'm going to keep on, using procedures like this to keep my internal body as youthful as possible and keep
Right.
my own cells working for me and my own
Mm.
cells making my body be as optimal as possible.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing.
yeah, so these things that we only thought were imaginable are really present and true. And it's the coolest thing in the world for me in order to be able to do this. And not only do we treat lots of patients with these types of procedures, but also, I get to tell them my own personal benefit. So,
Mm.
and it's really, it's such a neat thing because some of the people that we treat with this are really, they just don't have other options.
Right.
For example, I had a woman who came in who's had COVID and can't get over the brain fog, the body aches, and also her breathing was horrible. And she sounded like, John, when I examined her, she sounded like a child in the ER who was in the middle of an asthma attack. Basically,
Wow.
no air movement, extremely wheezing, extremely tight. And we gave her this treatment again using her own plasma and her own B cells back in her body. And then because she was having problems with her brain and her lungs, that's where we used the laser, which is a painless procedure.
Hmm.
lasered over her lungs for 10 minutes, lasered over her brain for about 8 minutes, listened to her lungs again immediately, and they were clear right
Wow.
away.
Wow.
And again, she said to me, she's like, oh my God, she's like, I feel like someone just took a weight off my chest. And
Wow.
yes, it was really, really neat. And, a month later, she's still doing great. 2 months
Good.
later, still great. So the changes are actually, it's regenerative, it's rebuilding. So it's not
Right.
something that's going to go away. And, we've seen just so many really cool things. For example, I had a woman who had basically a cornea in her eye that was degenerating. Followed for years, was not getting better. They really didn't know what to do. Maybe eventually she needed a corneal transplant. After one treatment, she's back at the ophthalmologist, and her cornea is healing for the first time in years.
Wow.
Amazing.
So why? So why do you think? And I don't know if you could speak to this or not. If you can't, obviously, no problem. But why is this something then that is so like looked at like it's like taboo?
I mean, listen, a few things. Number one, in all fairness, we're at the forefront of medicine,
Right.
and it takes 20, 30, 40 years between before things are adapted. Things do not happen quickly in medicine at all.
Right.
And, there unfortunately is, a political and economic pressure that comes from pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies, either to not provide all the care or just do things that are pharmaceutically based.
Right.
And, something that comes from someone's own body, you know, there there's not the same type of motives and incentives because there's no drug that's going to make billions and billions of dollars that can push through, the FDA trials for things like this.
Right.
So we're at the forefront of what
No.
we can do, and we keep on working on on doing things that are safe and effective. And, over time, we learn more and more and more about these things. And for me, it's a super exciting time in my life because it's so fun to innovate and be able to change people's lives in a way that you couldn't change it before
Right.
and make a massive difference in their life.
Right. It's that's incredible. I think you know what it's funny how the so when you say what you said, it makes me think about the Apple commercial from like the 90s where it was like the Think Different campaign where the ones who are crazy enough to think they could change the world are the ones that do.
Right.
And so what you're at the forefront doing, right, is kind of
Yeah.
and other doctors that are in your field, it's not looked at the same by obviously widespread things, but I love that obviously it's making massive impact and it's different,
Yeah.
and that's really cool.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, I think doctors' attitudes have changed somewhat. Years ago, I think people would have been even more conservative. But
Right.
in the same technology that we use to reverse aging, there was actually a study showed that you could take people with heart failure and use the laser and the V cells on their heart, and you can
Hmm.
actually help to reverse heart failure. So I have some patients that are cardiologists that are helping me, work with their department heads, and department heads are actually interested in studying this technology and see
Mm.
what we really can do because they know that there really are no good options for these patients, and we may have a very plausible one that can help to change these people's lives in a way that is safe yet effective. So
Right.
I think they're a little more open to things than they used to be. But again, if there was a pharmaceutical drug behind it, things would obviously happen a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
but it may not be but that would be, fraught with side effects and problems and issues and everything else to where using something that's, what's called autologous, meaning comes from the patient's body, makes it
Right.
very safe and very effective. And, it's very different than using a drug.
Right.
So that's kind of the yin and yang of things.
Who could have thought
Um,
that our bodies could provide more of this support to our sicknesses, which makes sense when you say it out loud, than medicine could do, right? So,
yeah,
it's quite impressive.
right. Well, listen, I mean, our body has mechanisms in order to heal and get better.
Right.
And, in traditional medicine, we take an anti-hypertensive, an anti-cholesterol, an anti-inflammatory. But our body is set up with all these mechanisms that if you provide it the right tools, whether it's the right nutrition, the right lifestyle, even the right mental frame, you can actually make things heal and make things change.
Right.
So, getting to the mental standpoint, there's studies that have been done on meditation, John, and looking at changes in actual areas of the brain growing and expanding from meditating. So it's
Wow.
essentially like when you exercise your arm and your arm gets bigger, you can exercise your brain in different parts and make parts of the brain get bigger too. So your body is a very learnable, adaptable tool.
Right. Do you
So
meditate?
I do. I'm not a champ at meditation, but I do the best that I can. It's hard to keep out all your thoughts and things like that, especially when you have a
Right.
million things on your mind. But I do
Right.
try to do it, at least on a daily basis. And I might not be great at it, and maybe I can only do it for a few minutes at a time. But I think it's better to try to do something rather than nothing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm in the same boat as you because I try to do it. There's so much obviously going on, typically. So, it's hard to shut everything out completely.
Right.
But I found that when I do it after and I don't know if there's anything to do with it, but I do a lot of fasted workouts in the morning. So I do like fasted cardio and things like that. So I'm not eating before I'm working out, and then I do it right after I work out. And obviously I'm breathing heavy. I don't know if but that has been my best state to meditate in for me
Hmm.
personally, at least. But yeah, I would agree with you, and I think it's really cool to think about that because a lot of times, to your point, a lot of people are always. If I asked you right now, hey, Dr. Greenberg, how do I grow my biceps or triceps? And like everybody else, you're gonna say, we'll go work out, eat healthy, whatever. But nobody thinks about the brain and how we can expand that. But I love that you just exposed kind of like meditation and internal focus does that.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think it's
Yeah,
really important.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, and then listen, everyone has to find what works for them at the right place, the right time, the right, whatever it is that they need in order to do it. And like I said, I think doing even a little bit of it is better than not doing any at all and trying to incorporate in your life. And, they say it takes what, 10,000 hours to be expert at something. Well,
Yep,
we got to
yep,
keep working and working and working and working and working at it and think about the long run rather than just the short term.
totally.
So
Well, this has been insanely like what a wealth of knowledge you always are, Dr.
thank
Greenberg.
you.
I'm so grateful for your time. Where can people find you? This is where you plug yourself. We're going to throw your website on here right now. But where can people find you otherwise? Let's talk social. Let's talk everything else.
So I know we have Instagram and Facebook and our website, greenbergregen.com. I also have, I do lecture to physicians and provide grand rounds, which I'm going to do another one next month, all on head injuries, presented at one of our local hospitals here. They can always contact us, call us, and you can log on to our website and see some of my old lectures and some of my old doctor presentations. And I think it's quite fascinating. It'll open your eyes to a lot of things. And, we always got to keep learning and growing.
That's it. Student, you got to be a student of life, right?
How to be a student of life. If you think you know everything, then you're going to get stuck and know nothing.
Oh my
So,
gosh. Yeah, they actually say I can't remember if Kevin O'Leary or Mark Cuban said this, but once people typically get successful at something, they get this like in the opposite of imposter syndrome where they think they know everything and they actually become blinded and it actually winds up stunting their growth instead of being open and vulnerable and always wanting to learn and being open to education. So I love that obviously you're still in that mindset. And again, I think everyone's gonna be jumping on the whole I want to feel young again and re-age process. So I'm sure everybody give Dr. Greenberg a shout. His
yeah.
website's listed right here. He's available, obviously. Great,
I
great
keep
guy.
those biceps big,
That's it. That's it. You are the man, Dr. Greenberg. We appreciate you. Everybody watching in, we appreciate you guys. And everybody out there, create a great rest of your day. Go give Dr. Greenberg a follow. Check out his website. And Dr. G, we appreciate you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely.